Let's take a look at another error having to do with verbs. Bob tried to hold in laughter as Grandpa Roland says grace with mashed potatoes on his nose. What's the issue here? We've got a mixture of tenses. This is indicating that this is past tense, whereas this verb is indicating that this is present tense. So we would just have to change one to be consistent with the other. So Bob tries to hold in laughter, or as Grandpa Roland said grace. Either way, you got to be consistent with your tenses. 10 years ago, the traveling circus came to town and displays its assortment of acts and wonders. Here, we've indicated not only in this verb, but also in this time cue that this happened 10 years ago, in other words, the past, that this should be a past tense verb. So look not only for consistency with other verbs in the sentence, but also consistency with time cues given in the sentence. After the meltdown at Chernobyl, the surrounding town of Pripyat was rendered uninhabitable and had displayed high levels of background radiation. Now, most of the time on the SAT, you're not really going to have to worry about the different forms of the tenses, like past perfect, progressive, past progressive, blah, 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 blah. All you really need to worry about, as we saw in the previous two, is just that past versus present difference. Now, here is a little bit of an exception where we have this these couple things. The surrounding town of Pripyat was rendered uninhabitable and had displayed high levels of background radiation. So it's kind of like parallelism. We just want to be consistent here with the forms of our tense. So all we can probably need to do is just get rid of the had, and we would have displayed. So the town of Pripyat was rendered uninhabitable and displayed high levels of background radiation. So that's not really getting into the depth of like what kind of tense that is and how it relates to everything else. It's really just making sure you're consistent. So as I just said, the fine distinctions between different tenses aren't as important as maintaining consistency of past and present in a sentence in the paragraph. So you want to look for other tenses in other verbs in the sentence and or the paragraph and use that as your guide. Also time cues, as I mentioned. So if it says 16 years ago, you know it's in the past. Note that consistency of tenses doesn't mean they're all the same. It's just something that it's logical consistency. Perhaps they all should be past tense. Or, for example, if you show the order of events in time, maybe some have to be past, some have to be present, some have to be future. It's just about being consistent. Let's take a look at this one. According to Box, a leading Greenland expert, tundra fires in 2012 from as far away as North America produced great amounts of soot. Some of it drifted over Greenland in giant plumes of smoke and then fell as particles onto the ice sheet. So notice the subject-verb agreement here is fine. We don't have to worry about that because this is basically it's, what was it, plural or is it? I guess it doesn't really matter since they're past tense verbs anyway. The key is that they're past tense, right? Some of it drifted, that's past tense, over Greenland, and then fell, that's past tense. So notice we're consistent with our tenses. We're all in the past. So B and C, B is present tense, C is future tense. We don't want to change the tense at all. Had fallen, this gets into our example here. We don't have had drifted earlier, so there's no reason to use had fallen here. It's just inconsistent, not really parallel. So for that reason, we go with choice A.